Thank you for joining us. We're broadcasting from the Thomas K. McKeon Center for Creativity, and I'm your host, Corey D. Taylor. My guest today is none other than Anita Arnold. She is the Executive Director of Black Liberated Arts Center. If you want to see a great show, then stay tuned, because this is Oklahoma Up Close. Welcome back, and we are here with none other than the progenitor of African American art, Anita Arnold. How are you, ma'am?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I'm so glad you had an opportunity to come and stop by the studio and give us some of your time. So I want to say thank you.
Oh, well, you're entirely welcome. The pleasure's all mine, as a matter of fact.
Well, I always know you had this adorable personality, because I remember when I was on Oklahoma Live years ago, I had an opportunity to meet you, and you were doing a fundraiser at that time, and you had this gray Coach purse, and I told you, I was like, hey, my wife really needs that. And you
Yes,
was like, yeah,
I
you need
remember that.
You was like, yeah, come to the auction. And I was like, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm not telling my wife I saw the purse.
Well, I tell you what, it's auction time again.
Exactly.
Yes.
So with that being said, talk a little bit about when you said it's auction time, you have your anniversary coming up.
It's the 45th anniversary of Black Liberated Arts Center. Mm-hmm. And we're having our annual fundraising dinner on November the 21st, and it includes a silent auction. Last year at the event, we had a native Tulsan,
Wow,
gone Hollywood. We're talking about Alfred Woodard. So she was our guest last year. So we're working on wonderful guests this year, and I'm not really in a good position to say who it is right now.
That's
you know
fine.
How it is with the celebrities.
Yes, yeah, oh yeah,
But
we get them on this show,
yes,
so we know.
Yeah, so at any rate, let's just say that we'll have another celebrity, but this one will probably be from Oklahoma City and not Tulsa, but Oklahoma.
Now,
just the same.
You've been doing, because you're the Executive Director of Black Liberated Arts Center in Oklahoma City, but you've been doing this since '91?
Yes, as a matter
Wow.
of fact. I had an association. A lot of people think I founded Black Incorporated. That's not true.
John Smith.
John Smith is the founder.
Correct.
He's the president emeritus of Fisk University.
Wow.
And it was his idea to put this organization in place. I came along in 1991 after serving a little while, maybe about 4 or 5 years, as a board member of Black Liberated Arts Center. And the former executive director, Ola Nally, had served for about 20 years, and he retired, and then shortly thereafter he died. He had a heart attack. So the board was, looking for someone to lead them into the future and stabilize this organization. And since I had taken early retirement from AT&T Corporation, just moved back home from New Jersey in 1984 was when I came back after having a corporate career.
Right, because not only were you with AT&T, but you were very high ranking in the United States Postal Service, like the
Yes.
second highest ranking female, or if
That's
I'm
correct.
And so, wow, so you went from there and then you go to AT&T and have an illustrious career there.
Yeah.
But what made so you retired, you didn't want to stay in corporate longer?
Well, I mean, for the money, I could have,
Right.
But to tell the truth about it, by then I had been traveling around the country. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. As a matter of fact, we can say Route 1, Box 31 to Tecumseh, Oklahoma. And that places me exactly. But I grew up in Oklahoma City and graduated from Frederick Douglass High School. And then a little while later, after the beginning of my college career at Howard University, was the first, I say career because I've gone to a number of colleges, and among them OU and OSU, so there's no fighting.
Right. He's like, let me get that out the way.
Yes. So I came back after having lived in Washington, D.C. Twice, as a matter of fact, Memphis, Tennessee, and then New Jersey. But that was after I had lived in South Carolina for a short period of time.
So let me ask you this. What made you come back?
What I'm an Oklahoman. That's what made me come back.
Well, that's interesting because, you know, when we interview people on the show, we find out so many times either they are from here and they've gone off to do big things and then they come back, and then they kind of consider that as they came back to bring what they learned from other regions to bring back to Oklahoma. Is that kind of what your deal was as well?
You guessed it. You guessed it. Yes, I had been, I think, very fortunate to have lived in a number of places and have traveled the world, as a matter of fact. And so I said, gee, it's time to give back. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be just exactly when it happened, but it turned out that the Bell system, which AT&T was a part of at that time, was breaking up. And so they started offering early retirement for those who wanted to leave. So I thought, well, this is where I came in. So I took the early retirement with AT&T and decided I would come back and pursue real estate because that's how I had managed to get my 3 children into college and through college. And so that was the original draw.
Now, speaking of your children, you have some very successful children. So share with us a little bit about them, because you were sharing some things with me and I was like, whoa, like, so tell us a little bit about your children and what they've done.
Well, I've got 2 daughters and a son. He's the oldest one. He always wanted to be in radio or television. He always wanted to be in the sports field. He graduated from OU. He is the voice of the Dallas Mavericks. He's had his own TV show even before Oprah had her show. He had a show that he was in syndication on, which was seen, you know, across the world, as a matter of fact. But it was called On the Beam. And nowadays, he's married. He has 3 children, but he still travels the world with the Cowboys, the Rangers, the Mavericks, any major sporting event that you can think of. Right. And I can't tell you the number of Super Bowls he's gone to, you know, all those kinds of things, covering those events. So, you know, he's the oldest, and that's where he went. My next oldest child is an attorney in the Washington, D.C. area. She's what they call an ERISA attorney, and attorneys will know what that means.
Right.
But it's a high demand area, and she has done remarkably well. She married an attorney, and he became general counsel for IBM Americas. And that meant that he traveled to North America, South America, Latin America, whatever said America. That's what her husband did. And so, you know, the 2 of them in the same household, I said, I wonder if they argue all the time.
Right, because they debating a trial. Everything is a trial.
Right.
Right.
But at any rate, they have a daughter that recently married, and she's a lawyer too.
Wow.
So, you know, it's on down into the grandchildren now.
Right.
And then I have a youngest daughter. She lives in Memphis, Tennessee, and you can tell Dallas, Potomac, Maryland, also Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because, you know, they go down, they have a place down there too. But nevertheless, the youngest one lives in Memphis, and she has 4 children. And so I have plenty of time to go to visit, you know, whenever I get a break from Black Liberated Arts Center, which is not that often. But the good news is I got all my traveling out of the way. My youngest daughter was in early childhood development for a long time because she actually has had a passion. I think she was born with a passion for children. So she's always very keenly interested and involved in some children's programs. And she did that until she decided to go over into the corporate world. So she has been in pharmaceuticals, you know, for the last 4 or 5 years. So my children are doing well. I wish everybody's child could do that. And see, I've said many times, you know, when I've been talking, I said, if I could give every child what I gave my children, I would be happy.
You talked about Liberated Arts Center. So tell us, what is that actually? Like, give us some detailed information about what
Okay.
is Black Liberated Arts Center.
It's a fine arts organization, quite frankly. There are several things that we do. The organization started out in 1970, and they came into being at the right time, meaning that Oklahoma had taken the arts out of schools. And so it was Dr. Smith's vision to provide arts and take the arts into the schools where they had been taken out. And so it consisted of many people. It was a membership organization at first. And you had these groups. You had the dance group, you had the music group, you had the theater group, and they had these big meetings, and it didn't work out that well because everybody had an opinion at the big
Right.
meeting.
Their own
Yes,
agendas, right.
That's exactly right. But they started out being a producing company, and what that means is that it was all local talent, and they were developing their talent and showcasing it in the community. Later on, they started bringing in artists, from other places, celebrity type people. So Black Incorporated has a history of a lot of firsts, for Oklahoma. The first to bring, say Alvin Ailey to Oklahoma City. Some things are first for the state, some things are first for the city. We were the first to bring the Smithsonian Institute to Oklahoma City.
Wow.
And so, that made a headline. And then there are many other things, such as the Kennedy Center program, and that's our education piece. We were the first to be selected by the Kennedy Center, yes, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts.
Which you were an advisory board member, committee member.
Yes, I was for 3 years. But through them, we trained teachers, classroom teachers, to be more effective in the classroom by using arts integration techniques. Children are excited to learn in the schools where we have our arts integration programs. Why? Because it's not your usual rote type learning. You have children who are participating, using the arts to learn science, using the arts to learn math or geography or vocabulary, just anything. The Kennedy Center has a full curriculum of workshops and artists who will come to your city and work one-on-one in the classroom with the teacher to model, to observe, and also train not only the one teacher, but the entire school. It's a whole school approach to learning.
But what I'm hearing you saying, that you all through Black Inc., you are trying to make sure that these things stay in the school system, because there is definitely a value to having arts mingled with mainstream academics.
It is, but it's more than mingling.
Okay.
Okay. In other words, if you look at math, it's easy to use the arts to teach math, particularly music. Because, when you're doing the music, aren't you counting?
Yes.
Yeah, aren't you?
Yeah, quarter notes, half notes,
That's correct.
Fractions.
That's
of course,
right.
yes.
That's exactly right. But, you can apply that directly in the classroom. The arts, the music, you put the two together, and what you're accomplishing is very powerful, because you're touching and increasing the student scores in not only the music, but also in the math.
Right.
And so let me just share this with you. IBM, everybody's familiar with that corporation.
Yes.
This was not a formal study, but it was something that happened, and a friend of mine who worked for IBM told me about it. And at one point, not too far back in the past, IBM was having trouble getting people that were passing their entry exam, and they couldn't understand it. They couldn't understand that at all because I mean, here we are in the information age, right? The internet, all that,
Right.
and so we're supposed to engineering, all that kind of stuff, and people were not able to pass that test. So they considered maybe changing the test, but then something happened. They decided to try something, and they went and they surveyed all of the ones that were on staff, and most of them had one thing in common, and that was music. And so they thought, well, is this something that we should take notice of?
Correct.
And so then they went and looked at the ones who failed the test, and they had not had any kind of music. And so they took it a step further, and they went to a junior high school, and they went to a ninth grade class, and all of those students who had had music, they gave them the IBM test, and guess what?
They passed it.
They all passed it.
And the reason why they passed it, and this is true because, and when I said mingling, I understand the power of arts in education because, of course,
right.
I have a BFA and I excelled. As a matter of fact, I have ADHD. And when I was in high school, I didn't do very well because it was mainstream, what I call mainstream curriculum. And at that time, they were like, oh, you're an artsy kid, really don't have value to this. But then when I got to college, I started learning about multiple intelligence.
Right.
And that
That's
art,
right. That's right.
and
That's
that
right.
mainstream education was just a small part of the nine areas of multiple intelligence. And
That's
like
correct.
Rembrandt and Mozart and all of these different people, they were from artistic background, but they were great in things like math. And
That's right.
and our first helicopter was the design of a helicopter was invented by an artist. Machinery, tanks, and all of that were invented by artists. So I learned that when I got to the university in art history, and I said, oh, well, I'm not a dummy. I do have value because at that time, I had a teacher that went to Rutgers University by the name of Dr. Dennis Rafferty. And he pulled me to the side one time and he said, have you ever had your IQ tested? And I was like, no. I was like, because, they told me, like, I'm not that smart because I'm an art student. He said, on the contrary, he said, you're actually probably one of the smartest and the brightest young men I've ever met before. And so for me, it took me to college to feel awesome about the fact that I was this art creative person, and then we could go into right brain, left brain, and all of those different things. But I hear you saying that it definitely needs to be more of a push for that we make sure that arts are going to stay in the school, and not only at a high level, but at the entry levels of them coming in school, because this is spawning creativity, which is lending to them learning more in a traditional sense of academia.
Well, see, you can look at the thought and how it's beginning to change, even though we're in the information age with technology. You hear a lot about STEM, STEM, STEM. Well, now it's STEAM, 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 because they realize that the power is in the arts. And so they added the arts even into that concept of teaching science, engineering, and technology. They stuck the A in there and it became STEAM. And so now it's really powerful.
What's some of those awards that have meant the most to you that you have received?
Well, my top three,
Okay.
to tell the truth, I received one from the Kennedy Center, for the work that we're doing in education.
Wow.
And that was really good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kennedy
And then,
Center.
yes.
Right.
And
Give me one. Like.
the other one, the second on the list, I guess, is the one from the governor. I never would have, as long as I was working in corporate America, have even thought that I would be doing the things that I'm doing. And to have the Governor's Arts Award
Wow.
given to me by the governor, Governor Brad Henry, as a matter of fact, that was really great. And then the third one, never in my dreams at all had I thought that I would be given the Oklahoma Human Rights Award. And it was the last one that they gave. And up until that point, they had given multiple recipients that award. But the year that I got it, December the 10th, 2010,
You remember?
I remember I was the only one that
Wow.
got the governor's, not the governor's, but the Oklahoma Human Rights Award. And it was quite a celebration at the Capitol, and it was very special to me because it was the last one and the only one that was given that year. So those are my top three. And I've had some that have been pretty surprising. Getting an award by an international organization who give recognition to creative women. And I was one of three in the state to receive that award.
Wow.
I had never heard of the organization. I mean, you talk about just coming out of the blue. That was one of them. I had no clue and still don't know that much about the organization except that they are international. They do have chapters throughout the United States and other countries, but they look carefully at women who are creative and who are making huge contributions to their respective states.
If I'm not mistaken, you're also an author as well.
That is correct.
You're
You didn't
4
tell me
books?
this. You're surprising me.
Yeah, well,
This
that's
is-
my job as an interviewer to research. I wouldn't be good at it if I didn't research. So, is it 4 books?
Yes, I have written 4 books. The last one is called Oklahoma City Music, Deep Deuce and Beyond.
Yes.
And it's about the musicians or the music of Second Street. It has, it does acknowledge that Ralph Ellison was the voice of jazz, in my opinion. But there were so many great artists that came out of the Deep Deuce area, just as there were great artists that came out of Greenwood. It just happened that I was in Oklahoma City, and the inspiration, so to speak, came, from the Oklahoma City artist, and Arcadia Publishing published a book, and they do those kinds of history books. That's what they're called.
Wow.
They do those throughout the country, and they do it per city. They don't go statewide. They do city by city, and that seems to work well for them.
What keeps you going?
Well, 2 or 3 things. Number one, the children. I really must admit that I have a passion for children. I mean, I don't know that I would have the same interest and level of involvement if it was just a bunch of adults.
I love children too. I agree. I concur on that about the adults versus children versus adults. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, that's our future. It's always, the children are always our future. And so to the extent that I can contribute something to make a difference in their lives, especially as they are developing, so that when they become adults, you don't have all of the problems that we're facing now, with those children. So to the extent that I can reach and teach as much through whatever resources I have, that's what I am real passionate about. The
second one, yes.
The
What's number 2?
second thing is I'm pretty passionate about Charlie Christian.
Yeah.
And Charlie Christian, had he lived, would have been 100 years old in 2016.
Wow.
So we're working on something nice and big, hopefully, for Charlie Christian's 100th anniversary. The thing that I'm most engaged in right now is getting him on a U.S. Postal Service stamp. All of his friends, I should say not all of his friends, some of his friends, Oklahoma friends, Jimmy Rushin and Ralph Ellison, they are on postage stamps, and he deserves to be on postage stamps too. A lot of people aren't that familiar with Charlie Christian, and when I start rolling out his accomplishments, they said, but he died so young. I said, what does that have to do with you making a lasting impact on the world? Which is what I consider it lasting from his time until they stopped making guitars. Now, if they stop making guitars, then that ends his legacy. But as far as the instrument is concerned, it's everywhere. It's in gospel, it's in jazz, it's in blues, it's in every music genre that you can think of. So I'd like to say this about Charlie Christian, why he will always be remembered since he died at the age of 25. He was the one that introduced the single string solo on the electric guitar. And he did that, and it was brought to national and international attention when he started playing for Benny Goodman. It was a thing that got him into Benny Goodman's band. You have to understand that guitars have a beginning just like all the rest of us, and in its infancy, it wasn't electrified. It was one that you just strummed and you could not hear it in an orchestra or a big band. It was just another one of those little rhythm instruments. But Charlie Christian, growing up in Oklahoma City, experimented by putting a microphone in the hole of the guitar and then plucking it. And by the time they invented the guitar, he could put the music and the technology together, and he took off.
Wow.
And nobody could figure it out. It looked easy enough, but when they tried it, it just didn't work because they didn't understand the technology and the length of the vibration on the strings as he did, because he did it when he was a teenager. Yes, he did come from a musical family, but that's innovative, that's creative. And George Benson said it from the stage. Carlos Santana said it. I heard them both in Oklahoma City saying, if it wasn't for Charlie Christian, they couldn't be. Now, that's a powerful statement to make.
That is very powerful. And we are out of time because, man, this is so interesting. But I would like to thank you for coming and sharing all of this with us. We'll have to bring you back because I see there's a wealth of information we could get from you, okay?
Okay, well, I would love to come back, particularly as we get into Charlie Christian's 100th anniversary. That would be really good.
Well, thank you so much.
And thank you for having me.
All right. I hope you've enjoyed our show today. I would like to thank our guest, Anita Arnold, for joining us. Think about this. Change is inevitable, but your attitude towards that change, it is always optional. Until next time, keep looking forward.